Imagine for a moment that you're standing in the center of a room filled with people, all talking, all demanding your attention, all expecting something from you. The noise is deafening. The demands are endless. And you keep responding, keep giving, keep being there for everyone. But something strange is happening. The more you give, the more invisible you become. The more you respond, the less they listen. It's as if you're a ghost in your own life, present for everyone except yourself. Now picture this. Suddenly you simply vanish from that room. Not with drama, not with explanations, not with slamming doors. You just leave. And in the silence you leave behind, something powerful begins to happen. People start looking for you, wondering where you are, realizing perhaps for the first time your absence. Have you ever felt that your constant availability has made you invisible? That being always there for others has cost you being present for yourself? Because if so, you need to hear what Carl Jung discovered about the transformative power of conscious unavailability. And I promise you that by the end of this exploration, you'll understand a truth that will forever change how you relate to yourself and the world. A truth that Jung considered fundamental to what he called the individuation process, becoming who you truly are. But before we reach that revelation, I need to take you by the hand through the psychological labyrinth that Jung explored for decades. Because this isn't just a story about personal boundaries or self-esteem. This is the deepest story there is, the story of how you reclaim your soul. There was something Jung observed in his patients over and over again, something that deeply troubled him. People would come to his practice who had dedicated their entire lives to being good, available, understanding. People who never said no, who were always there when someone needed them. But there was a disturbing pattern. These people, the most generous and available, were also the emptiest, the most depressed, the most lost. Jung wondered, how is it possible that those who give the most have the least? How is it possible that those who connect most with others are most disconnected from themselves? And it was then that he began to understand something revolutionary about the human psyche. Jung discovered what he called the prison of excessive availability. You see, from the time we're children, we're taught that our value as people is directly related to how useful we are to others. We're applauded when we share our toys, when we comfort a crying friend, when we set aside what we want to do to help someone else. And there's nothing wrong with being generous or empathetic. The problem arises when this availability becomes our only form of identity, our only way of feeling worthy of love and acceptance. We begin to believe that our worth depends on how quickly we respond to messages, how many people we can help, how available we can be for others' emotional needs. But Jung understood something that most people never realize. Excessive availability is not a virtue. It's a prison. And while you continue thinking you need to be accessible all the time, emotionally or otherwise, you'll be manipulated, exhausted, and forgotten as soon as you're no longer useful. Why? Because being always available makes you seem predictable. And everything predictable becomes a tool. Jung spoke about what he called the persona, this mask we wear to be accepted, loved, recognized. And it's exactly this mask that keeps you excessively available. You say you're okay when you're suffocating. You respond to messages immediately even when you're exhausted. You explain yourself, justify yourself, defend yourself as if you owe something to the world. But the truth is that the more you place yourself at the center of others' stage, the more you disappear from your own. Being available all the time is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It's a disguised way of seeking approval, avoiding rejection, trying to control the image others have of you. Let me share with you one of Jung's most profound insights about psychic energy. Jung didn't see the human psyche as an automatic machine that reacts to stimuli without consequences. For him, our mind is like an energy system, and every thought, emotion, and action consumes a part of that energy. The question is, are you choosing where your energy goes, or are you letting the world decide for you? Every time you react impulsively, you're wasting psychic energy. When you defend yourself against criticism that didn't even deserve attention, when you respond to provocation just to prove you're right, when you engage in useless arguments, When you try to please those who don't value you, you're spending your inner strength on what doesn't nourish you. And Jung was clear. What you resist persists. The more you react, the more you bind yourself. People who live emotionally exhausted aren't weak. They're misdirected. But here's where Jung's insight becomes truly revolutionary. He discovered that when you stop being constantly available, when you choose conscious unavailability, something extraordinary happens to your psychic energy. Instead of being scattered in 1,000 directions, it begins to consolidate. Instead of being at everyone's beck and call, you become sovereign over your own inner kingdom. Think about the people in your life who command respect effortlessly. Notice something interesting about them. They're not the ones always trying to please everyone. They're not the ones who respond to every message immediately. They're not the ones who explain themselves constantly. They have something Jung called presence, a quality that comes from being fully centered in themselves rather than scattered across everyone else's needs. This brings us to what Jung considered one of the most misunderstood aspects of human psychology, the power of silence. Not the silence of passivity or cowardice, but conscious, strategic, brutally lucid silence. The kind of silence that isn't absence, but amplified presence. When you stop reacting to everything, you begin to observe. And in observing, you see patterns that were previously invisible. Emotional repetitions, manipulation games, cycles of self-sabotage. Silence allows for lucidity. And lucidity is dangerous for those who live to control you. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond? When you don't explain yourself? When you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you. It's because your silence takes away their narrative control. While you're talking, you're still in their game. But when you're silent, you change the rules. And that unbalances anyone who thrives on your reaction. Jung understood that true silence isn't the absence of voice. It's mastery over your own energy. It's the refusal to be dragged into another person's emotions. It's the conscious choice not to participate in battles that aren't worth your wear and tear. But let me warn you about something Jung discovered in his own journey. Silence has a price. It will distance you from people who only valued you for the role you played. It will make you incomprehensible to those who only saw you through their own projections. It will make you seem cold, distant, arrogant, but all of this is a reaction from those who never wanted to deal with your depth, only with your utility. Here's where we encounter what Jung called the shadow. Not just your personal shadow, but the collective shadow of a society that demands constant availability, instant responses, perpetual connectivity. This collective shadow feeds on your scattered energy, your reactive patterns, your need to be needed. When you begin to withdraw your energy from this collective feeding system, you're not just changing yourself, you're threatening an entire ecosystem that depends on your availability. And that ecosystem will fight back. Jung observed this phenomenon repeatedly. The moment someone begins to individuate, to become truly themselves, the collective pushes back. Family members accuse you of becoming selfish. Friends say you've changed. Colleagues wonder what's wrong with you. But Jung understood that this resistance is actually proof that you're on the right path. The people who are disturbed by your newfound unavailability reveal how much they depended on your imbalance to maintain their own control. They're not missing you. They're missing what you provided: validation, company, distraction, emotional comfort. But when you change, when you establish a boundary, when you refuse to react, these same people become irritated, accuse you, say you're strange. It's not because you've changed. It's because you stopped being functional for them. This is where Jung's concept of individuation becomes crucial. Individuation isn't about becoming isolated or antisocial. It's about becoming whole, authentic, integrated. It's about no longer needing external validation to know who you are. It's about being complete within yourself while still being able to connect genuinely with others. But this process requires what Jung called the night sea journey. A period of descent into your own depths, away from the constant noise and demands of others. It's in this sacred solitude that you begin to hear your own voice, without the interference of the world. Let me share something Jung discovered that will change how you see relationships forever. He found that the people who truly love you will respect your unavailability. They'll understand when you need space. They'll value your silence. They won't try to manipulate you back into your old patterns of excessive giving. But the people who only loved what you provided, the validation, the emotional labor, the constant availability, they'll be the ones who resist your transformation most strongly. And this becomes a powerful filter, separating those who love you from those who merely use you. Jung realized that conscious unavailability is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about becoming selective. It's about understanding that your energy, your time, your emotional availability are precious resources that should be invested wisely, not scattered indiscriminately. Think of it this way. Would you leave your front door wide open all the time, letting anyone walk into your house whenever they wanted? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what we do with our emotional and psychic space when we're constantly available to everyone. Jung's practice of what he called active imagination required periods of complete unavailability to the external world. He would retreat into his study, disconnect from social obligations, and dive deep into his own unconscious material. It was during these periods of conscious unavailability that his greatest insights emerged. This brings us to perhaps the most counterintuitive truth Jung discovered. The more unavailable you become to the wrong people, the more available you become to the right ones. The more you protect your energy from those who would waste it, the more energy you have for meaningful connections. When you stop being an emotional emergency button for everyone, you become a sanctuary for those who truly matter. When you stop reacting to every provocation, you become a source of calm strength. When you stop explaining yourself constantly, you become mysteriously attractive to those who appreciate depth and authenticity. But here's the part that Jung found most fascinating. Your unavailability forces others to confront their own emptiness. Your silence reveals the noise they carry inside that they don't want to hear. And then comes the attack, the criticism, the emotional drama. Not because you're wrong, but because you stopped serving as a convenient mirror. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When you withdraw, when you stop feeding the cycle, the other's shadow begins to emerge. And this is unbearable for those who have always used you as an escape. Now, are you ready to hear the profound teaching I promised at the beginning? The revelation that Jung considered fundamental to psychological liberation? Here it is. Your unavailability is not selfish. It's sacred. It's not withdrawal. It's sovereignty. It's not cruelty. It's compassion for your own soul. Jung discovered that every individual has what he called a transcendent function, the ability to bridge the conscious and unconscious minds, to integrate opposing forces within the psyche, to become whole. But this function can only activate when you have enough psychic energy concentrated within yourself, not scattered across everyone else's needs and demands. When you practice conscious unavailability, you're not just setting boundaries, you're creating the conditions for your own psychological rebirth. You're allowing your true self to emerge from beneath the layers of people-pleasing, reactive patterns, and external validation seeking. The ultimate truth Jung discovered is this: you cannot individuate, you cannot become who you truly are, while you're constantly available to everyone else's agenda for your life. Your transformation requires periods of sacred unavailability, times when you're completely present to your own inner world rather than scattered across everyone else's. This is why some of the most powerful people you know seem mysteriously unreachable. They're not playing games or being manipulative. They've learned to guard their energy so carefully that when they do give it, it has real power and meaning. So here's your invitation, your call to action. Begin today to practice conscious unavailability, not as a weapon against others, but as a gift to yourself. Start small. Don't respond to that text immediately. Take a walk without your phone. Say no to that social obligation that drains you. Sit in silence without feeling the need to fill it. And watch what happens. Watch how the people who truly love you respect your space. Watch how your own energy begins to consolidate and strengthen. Watch how your presence becomes more powerful, because it's no longer scattered in 1,000 directions. If this exploration has touched something deep within you, if you recognize yourself in Jung's insights about excessive availability, then you're ready for the next phase of this journey. Subscribe to continue exploring Jung's revolutionary ideas about individuation, the shadow, and the path to psychological wholeness. Because this is just the beginning. Jung's map of the psyche contains treasures that most people never discover, not because they're hidden, but because they require the courage to become unavailable to the shallow and available to the profound. The question is, are you ready to take that journey? Are you ready to discover who you truly are beneath all the masks of availability and people-pleasing? Your soul is waiting for your answer.